group of people, including a woman who today is 96 years old and very sharp. And she kept bringing up to me the subject of ageism and issues of aging that she didn't see being reflected in films enough, not to her satisfaction. So we talked, and it was my way of spending time with her, having conversations, phone conversations, in-person meetings. And then when the pandemic came and the life, we were really in lockdown, I thought, let's just do it. And then 5 weeks later, there we had our first edition of the festival. Last year we did our second. So both have been completely virtual, which meant we could reach coast to coast to coast in Canada, which was a delight for something that's a new festival and you're trying to get people's attention when they're very busy. There's so much beautiful content available to stream. So even with people shut in at home, it's not like I was delivering new content to them. But what distinguishes our festival is that every screening or streaming of a film is followed by a discussion. And the audience, it's continuous. It's not a Q&A moderated by somebody like me or you. It's a discussion with, if the filmmaker is available and alive, with people and experts on the theme that's discussed. So whatever the theme happens to be, love and the older age, or whatever the theme happens to be. And those discussions are what's really distinguishes us and makes it valuable to the audience, it makes them come back. And now we're gearing up for a third edition, which will be hybrid. So some events in theater and some online.
Hello, my name is Pushpinder Chaudhary. I'm the director of UK Asian Film Festival. And we've just concluded our 24th year last week and then made our way to here. So we are looking forward to next year, our 25th. So we are celebrating independent cinema from South Asia. So it's not just Indian films, but South Asians. And more importantly, we like to showcase British South Asian content in our festival. So I'm here, well, for last 2 years, we have been doing a hybrid festival in person and online. So like you, I would also appeal if there are people here in the audience who would like to see me, if they want their platform for their films, I'm happy to talk. Thank you.
I'm Martin Ravatz. I'm slightly fraudulent in the sense that I don't run an Indian film festival, but I've been involved with the Indian independent cinema world for many years now. I helped the growth of Film Bazaar when I ran the Film Bazaar labs there, and then spent 3 years working for NFDC India as head of training and development. So a lot of the films that you may have seen at the festivals, I've had some sort of a supporting contribution to. So I'm really proud of that. Most recently, I did direct a film festival, which was the New Zealand International Film Festival, which is the largest cultural event in the country of New Zealand. 250,000 tickets are sold across the country in 13 cities and 35 cinemas. Of course, the pandemic changed all that, but what I did manage to do in the 2 pandemic festivals I ran was lift and elevate the attention of New Zealand audiences, both diaspora audiences from the subcontinent and local audiences to Indian cinema. The first thing I did to do that was hire the wonderful Anu Rangucha as my South Asian programmer, who delivered the most beautiful films through a couple of our festivals, and she remains the programmer for the New Zealand International Film Festival, even though I've stepped down after 2 pandemic festivals. But we've also brought on this real support of the Indian Embassy in New Zealand. So I'm hoping to see a growth of attention for Indian cinema through that festival, which I proudly was associated with.
So I wanted to ask each one of you, you all mentioned, hybrid or, the word pandemic kept coming up again and again. So I wanted to ask you about the challenges that you face, because from my own experience, in 2020, our festival was actually our 20th year. And the festival is supposed to be in April, May. And we suddenly began to notice that things had started getting really bad in New York. And it wasn't like, we had been asked to shut down public programming, but Tribeca and the Film Society Lincoln Center decided to, cancel or postpone the festivals. And we, at that moment, decided to cancel a festival. And what happened was actually, just through conversations with some friends, I realized this thought had never occurred to us before, that we could actually have a virtual festival also. It's always easy to do a physical festival in Manhattan, but then you only get the audiences in the New York City area, or sort of the greater New York City area, to come and see the films. But this was like no-brainer, really, that we could actually show films online. Of course, there were piracy concerns, etc., but we didn't have any of that to worry about, because we worked with a platform that was rather secure. And we were able to actually reach out to a far larger audiences, because once you plan to do a virtual festival, suddenly the entire United States of America becomes your territory, basically. And of course, there were some films being shown in Canada also, and some were being shown globally, including India. So it helped us to, a brand sort of moved ahead. But the only challenge I basically faced was I had to convince some of the filmmakers that, look, listen, if you have to have the festival, this is the only way we can do it. We cannot get people inside the theater, even with masks on, because it was really dangerous, especially in New York City. It was very dangerous in the spring of 2020. So I wanted to hear from you guys, because we did these in 2021. Also, we did the virtual festival. This year, we just concluded the festival. We weren't sure how things would be in New York, because even now, this new variant of Omicron is is infecting a lot of people still. So it was a matter of concern. So we basically, again, did a third year of a virtual festival, except for our closing night film was a physical screening. And it was really nice to see people come, and there being a red carpet, the energy in the theater. We actually did a physical awards ceremony, although most of the filmmakers had not been able to come from India. So, it's one of those things where I wish we could always, really do a physical festival. That's when you interact with the audience. That's when you have the conversation between the directors and the filmmakers and the audience. But this was the best possible option. So I wanted to ask you guys also, did you have similar experiences? Anything else that you sensed?
Thank you, Asim. We celebrated our 20th edition in 2020 totally online, because of course the world was as that, and we were quite sad at the idea, because we said, oh my God, we won't have anyone in front of us, any audience, any guests. But that was how it was. But we made it a point. So of course, films, we had issues. I mean, some filmmakers were worried for the piracy, of course. Nothing happened. And we had super security things, so nothing happened. And we reached a different and larger audience, because some films were, maybe some people in the north or in the south of Italy could see them. Some films were visible also out of Italy. It depended on the policies that each filmmaker gave us. But we made it absolutely a point to have every live conversation with each filmmaker who was locked at home in Mumbai or wherever, in Calcutta, and have a live conversation and have the audience online interact live with all these live Q&As. So to keep at least that fil rouge, I mean that string of having something live, not only click on a button and watch a film that you can do anytime, then you can have a live conversation with the filmmaker. I was inside the venue. We had set up a thing like this, but with an Indian setting. It was like an Indian living room. I was there sitting. We had kind of set up, it was like a TV studio. So I would chat with the filmmaker live, and the audience would ask live the questions. This made it a win-win for everyone, because the audience sent us a lot of emails saying, thank you so much, we were all locked at home, but we had the possibility of having this live conversation. So this was 2020. 2021, I must say, was more difficult, because it was this halfway. Again, in December, we are in Italy. No one could travel to Italy from India. So we couldn't have, so we had a hybrid festival. So we had the entire festival in the screening hall with the audience, but the filmmakers couldn't come. So it was a halfway strange thing. And of course we had a part of the festival, not the entire festival, a part of it online. Because we wanted to, let's say, show more things to the audience that comes physically in the cinema. We didn't want to do it exactly the same. But we really missed out having someone physical. Some of the, the guests, we didn't have any. So I must say that it was more complicated, maybe even more frustrating, because in 2020 it was totally, this way was kind of half-half. Now we hope this year in December to finally be able to invite filmmakers from India, and they can be there physically, and I can ask them questions and the audience can, and this is really what we're looking for, because there's nothing like having someone in front of you than having that person on screen. I mean, it's totally very different. Thank you.
Stefan, you want to also tell us how long you've been doing the festival, and tell us what happened during the pandemic.
Yeah, so we founded in a German Film Week 10 years ago. So that shows also that we did it also during the pandemic. But we went a little other way because we thought we want to connect also during the pandemic. We want to use the pandemic to have because the problem with the going online is, I think for a festival it's difficult, because a festival lives from live interaction, so that you see in your eyes and you have a buzz, and so this is really difficult. There are not so many solutions online which cater that. Yeah? So you can screen the films online, no problem. You can have a Q&A like Salvatja just told us. But the problem is still it's really difficult to create a festival feeling, because for a festival feeling, you see it now here and then whole Cannes, so you need it coming together, going to that point. It's a total other movement, and there's no app, as of I know, who can create that in the digital world. So what we started with the Indo-German live talks with filmmakers far before the festival. So when the pandemic began in March 2020 in Germany, so we quickly decided, okay, let's have start with the live talk format. I think we started it 2 weekly or so. So to keep the communication with our audience. And then for the festival itself, we were lucky enough that in autumn of 2020, so in September 2020, we could have a real event. Yeah? So it was better for us than you in December is really, same in Germany happened, then in November, December it turned. And so we couldn't do any live events, but in September it was still possible. And so we did the same in 2021. Also, for us the problem was in 2020 that we were losing somehow attention, in the meaning people were still afraid going to a cinema and so on and so forth. So we need kind of attraction. So we couldn't get a Bollywood star yet, but then we decided to engage Metli Thakur. She's a folk singer from India. Some people might know she's a Facebook star. So what really many good films for the festival. And so I'm now curious how we will manage in this year when we have the 10th edition. We will have it in October, so hopefully we will have the same situation then. Yeah. But what we learned from the pandemic is use digital, definitely. Yeah. But for some core things for a festival, it's for the conversational part of it. Besides the Q&A, it's difficult. Q&A is always fine. You can do that also online. A film you can watch online. But for the festival or atmosphere to exchange and to discuss films, and so that is really needed that you have it in the real space.
I think we've all had similar experiences and similar views. To look at things from another perspective, in Toronto there's a very big film festival called Hot Docs. It's the second largest documentary film festival in the world, and it just took place a few weeks ago. So being in the city where I live, I was able to attend, like every year, and this year it was hybrid. The last 2 years it was online. They were considered to be the first significant film festival that went online. Being hybrid this year meant that you could buy a ticket to watch them at home, anywhere in Canada, or you could come and attend in Toronto in person. For a filmmaker coming from abroad, traveling, even at the expense of the film festival, doesn't matter who pays for the ticket, they've traveled, they've come to the city, they come to the theater, and it's at best half full, and they're told X hundred of people, whatever the number is, are watching it at home. It doesn't do anything for their soul, you know. To put it virtual, they could have stayed home, and they felt for them they felt it was tragic because they want to debate. It's documentaries. They have a message in their film, and they're looking for that interaction with the audience. As a audience member, you can see the benefit of being able across Canada, which is, you know, quite huge. It takes 8 hours to travel from one side to the to be able to suddenly enjoy hot dogs from wherever you are in Canada is a huge benefit for the audience. And even people in Toronto would buy a ticket. You can buy one ticket, and you could sit with your partner and 2 children, and you know, and instead of buying one ticket for one person to go into the screening. So sometimes, you know, it just makes sense. You're at home. It's supper time. You say, you know what? Why don't we watch a hot dogs film? We have a bunch of. I bought a package of tickets. You can either use it virtually or go. It's like I can see the benefits each way. But I don't think that the hybrid is going to disappear so quickly because of the benefit. And again, it's my festival focusing on aging. Our efforts is to bring in a younger audience, since an older audience is going to come to us because of the subject of the film and the kind of the people, the experts that we're bringing for the discussions that follow. I have a couple clips to play. Maybe, I don't know, whenever people feel it's right to play them. So I think we're sitting in front of the screen.
Okay. So our festival dates used to be in March. So 1 week before our festival in 2020 was going to go on, whole of UK was shut. So we were holding on till we were only because of the legal reasons. If we had cancelled the festival before the shutdown, it meant we would have ended up paying for things like the venue and the films and so on. So we kept holding on till the last minute, which meant financially we didn't suffer because we could then claim the airline tickets and venue costs, and cancellation became official. But it was still shock to the system. But we did actually gather up. We were very creative. We contacted the filmmakers. We went online and reduced number of films were screened online with the filmmakers doing Q&A like you were suggesting. But out of that festival came the idea to look at the filmmakers, people who were associated with filmmaking industry, like the technicians, people who do costumes, because filmmaking industry had come to a halt. So we started online counseling service for artists who could actually ring us, get 6 sessions of talking appointments. Free was one, and the other one was once the assessment is made, if it is serious, they could be fast-tracked for medical help. and out of which came a report which we launched at the city council with the mayor's office to look at the support system that was needed and the recommendation for the artists, because we found that the financial help that was coming from the government in the form of furlough schemes, loans, most of our artists in the creative industry weren't eligible for it. For the reason they work on their own, they might be hired for projects which had now shut down. So for us, it was an important piece of work that we had managed to do, and look at arts in two ways. One is the support that arts need to survive in these kind of conditions, and the support, emotional support that artists needs. And what arts can do for the community, how arts are important in a situation like pandemic, films and other artistic activities to for our well-being. So these two recommendations are now being discussed at a level that puts arts community as a stakeholder in getting the benefit. One of the other things that we managed to do during the pandemic, which we are really proud of, was we needed to keep our audience, because one of our eyes was on getting the following year's grant from BFI lottery funding. So we started a film club which ran virtually a film club online, which ran like a book club. So you would watch a film and discuss it on Zoom. And we had a dedicated film journalist to lead the discussion and invite people to discuss the films. And what it did was that end of 2020 and beginning of 2021, we had managed to convince BFI, when UK was opening up slowly, to offer us in-person screenings at BFI. So what we had managed to do is not only sustain the audience, but also for our annual film festival, get all year round screenings at BFI in person to sustain South Asian or audience for South Asian content. So, so in a way, it has been very challenging, but we have been thinking out of the box to not only to survive, but to thrive. And for last 2 years, we had a hybrid festival with the support of BFI. So we are looking forward to our 25th, which is going to be next year in May, and hope that it will be a bigger and better festival.
Pushpinder, can I just ask you a question? This film club that you had, that was separate from the actual festival that you were doing in.
Yes.
And so how many screenings did you have at the film club? I'm just curious, and what was the time gap?
We have it every month.
Okay.
It's a monthly thing.
And these are also new films you're talking about, or there could be older films also?
Right. Okay. So when we started, because there was no money, what we thought was a good idea, the films we had which was to be programmed for our festival. So selected films were screened, and we invited the filmmakers to contact on Zoom. So that's how the idea started. But then when we ran out of that, then we would watch relevant films on OTT platforms.
Netflix or something like that, yeah.
Then come, but because we had been able to sustain it over the pandemic, we have been able to make a case to BFI to say, support us. So now we are in partnership with BFI to screen regular South Asian content on, and this can be new films or this can be old classics, whichever we can source.
Martin?
Listening to all of the innovation that all of the other festivals were undertaking is really encouraging. We all had to innovate. New Zealand, it's very similar stories, but what I'm reflecting on now was what it means to filmmakers, to producers, to directors who perennially have struggled outside the dedicated Indian film festival circuit, struggled to get their films into other broad spectrum festivals like this one. It's year after year. How many Indian films in Cannes? How many in Berlin? How many in Toronto? How many? And it's been a challenge, and it's been something that a lot of people have been working to address. One of the things that's been troubling as the outcome of the pandemic is many of those large festivals globally have had to tighten their belts. They've had to reduce the numbers of films they're taking. Toronto took like 75% away, I think, one of the biggest film festivals in terms of films selected and programmed. They went from somewhere around 300 to under 100. Now, for Indian cinema, South Asian cinema, that was one of the great sort of homes. And so the opportunities for your films to find a place there, I just want to say that it's going to be harder. That's the pandemic effect. It's not because your films are any less great, it's just there are fewer slots. And I think that's really important. And why I mention that is it brings back the attention to these festivals and the many other Indian and South Asian film festivals around the world as playing a crucial role in the infrastructure, the landscape of having your film seen by people around the world. But also, importantly, everyone has said, and we want to get back to in-person. I think hybrid is a necessary, I won't say evil, but it's been a necessary thing we've had to undertake. But it's been less than ideal. What it has done, I believe, is given access to festival type programming to regions and parts of countries or areas that weren't otherwise able to touch it. In particular, Canada, as it was mentioned, is this vast country. Same happened in New Zealand. We were able to take festival films to small towns in the middle of nowhere that were 3 hours drive from the nearest festival cinema normally. So the advantages of online, I think we're all coming to get to grips with. The return to in-person, I'll just finish with this on this note, is that what it allows filmmakers to do is understand what they've made in person. Because if you make a film and it goes on an OTT platform and only into a online festival, you haven't grown in the way a filmmaker needs to grow when you've heard the audience, you've sat in that room and you've had those Q&As, because any of you in the room who are filmmakers know by the time it's finished, you don't know what you've made. It's like you've been in the cutting room, you're just kind of hoping it's beautiful and that audiences will receive it. But that journey towards audiences in person is, I think, a major growth point for filmmakers to understand who they are, what is their voice, is it speaking as clearly and precisely as they want to. So the move back towards film festivals, I think, the passion of all of these festival directors and the others out there is incredibly important and encouraging. So applause to all of you for keeping that spirit burning under the most incredible circumstances. And just the filmmakers in the room know that this Indian film festival circuit is your dearest, closest friend right now, because the larger festival circuit just is, it's there, your films will sometimes get in, but it's much tougher. So be grateful for the dedicated festivals.
It's great.
Just to that point, because my festival is not, I'm the only one that's not an Indian, Canadian, yeah. But just to say that there are so many niche film festivals, so if your film deals with the environment, look for the environmental film festivals. If it has a gay theme, look for the LGBTQ festivals. If it has something to do with age, whether their cinematographer is somebody in their 70s, the filmmaker is in their 80s, the subject of the film itself touches upon some aspect of aging, come to me. So there's a gazillion different themes out there, and for each theme there's a festival. And festivals in many different cities. So you can have a wide circuit even without, or in addition or on top of the whole Indian diaspora circuit, which is so important, right?
So can we just, any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Nasrullah Qureshi, and I'm very happy to hear all of you sharing the experience of festival. I'm also doing a Bollywood film festival in Norway for 20 years. So I've been lucky to have all most famous star from Bollywood to attend my festival, from Hema Malini, Salman Khan, Anil Kapoor to Zinat Amanji, and many other stars been part of my festival. And also, beside films, we have a dance, because we're reflecting Bollywood, because most of the films have dance and songs. So we reflected them. Also, we have music concerts going on, and we have also dance program going on in our festival. So we had the same experience due a pandemic. It was very difficult time for us. But this time in September, we are going to celebrate again our 20 years festival in Norway, and we're going to musical tribute to Lataji this time. So thank you.
Anyone else has any questions, or? Say it again. If you're curious about the kind of films that we program, perhaps, should we touch upon that, the kind of films that we've shown in the past, maybe?
Maybe Jabbar wants to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay.
You did it? Yes. You're done? Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear. I was with the minister, I was late. Sorry. Well, I think I'm the only person for the Indian festival happening in India. You're all outside India. You're talking about your experience. Thanks for your great enthusiasm for Indian cinema. That's a great thing. And I'm putting up only Indian scene in front of you. Well, I come from Pune. I'm the chairman of the Pune International Film Festival. Sriyago has been one of my jury in about last 18 years ago. This is the 21st year now, in 23. And it's Government of Maharashtra's official festival. We have a competitive festival. It's World Cinema. Then the student film competition, restricted only film school. And we have Marathi, our regional language competition. But it's something special because we are not having a jury from Marathi, but we take jury from the overseas. I mean, the foreign jury watches the Marathi cinema. So we come to know that exactly from the European standards, of the American standard, Latin American standards, or even Asia, how the Marathi cinema they understand. So this is a festival, we show about 200 films. Well, during pandemic, we had a lot of time. We were inviting films, and till the date of the festival, we had about 2,000 films coming for selection. My selection committee was on, and we had decided on the competition films, and suddenly the government said lockdown, and so we had to keep quiet. And that, but we had selection, and see, irony was we had paid the money to the distributors, all the world cinema. We had paid the money. So there was a question, what happens? Because there's a limit to all that. But thankfully, we requested all the people and they agreed. They let happen. So first we declared not in March, but maybe in June, September, October, and poor people, they said, okay, carry on now, what we can do? And ultimately, it happened in December. It happened in December, but we had online also, and some films with 50% capacity in the cinema theaters. I tell you, this is the Pune scene. But the other festivals, the Goa, big festival, Kerala, they had own limitations, and some of the festivals could not happen. But we said we'll do it. We did it. And the first thing is that people, they're going through this kind of a depression phase. So on social media, we put up, PIF is coming. PIF is going to happen. PIF is Pune International. And I tell you, such a great response that something is happening. We can go for the public screening and it's going to happen. A wonderful response, even though it is 50%. Then we had already announced the next year, which was going to happen in Jan. We postponed it to March, and in the with the distance of 2 months, we had 2 major festivals. We had another one, because we had another 2,000 entries. We did it. This time my experience was that online screening in the first, when pandemic was on, it was a very good response. And we had a footfall from Kashmir to down Pondicherry. Because it was not restricted, it was not a region like. We had a wonderful platform, and this is going to be all India scene. We had a very good response, maybe around 2,000 people. They responded to the whole thing. But simultaneously, we had also the screening in the theater, and we're lucky that in that week the government announced there is going to be full capacity, you can see, no restriction, and we had a wonderful response. What we missed? We missed the jury. They used to come physically to us, talk to the filmmakers, talk to the people. We missed them. They were online jury. We gave them the online things to judge, and they gave the verdict online, deliberating with me. We gave the awards. We gave the award physically, but the jury spoke online during the award function to all the competitors that, look, your films were done. And this year we had again the jury, but they were again online. They couldn't come physically because it was impossible, They have a quarantine to come to Pune and to quarantine for 15 days. What's the use? So we again decided this year that it's going to be online. Only thing we failed about the winners. They should come and get the award. So we requested all the winners. We told them 3 days before that you are the winner of the best film, you're the winner for the best director. And we said, please send your reactions online. And but a good thing that during the award function, all the winners were talking to the people, the chief guest and the audience, just come to see. So this is what has happened. Now, well, do you like online? You're discussing. Do you like physical? To me, I'm a filmmaker. I think nothing like actual happening. What you miss is, so many things you miss. You miss thematic things. Like we have themes like man-woman relationship. We have at least 10 films lined up. And people come and discuss. So these workshops were totally missing. This time we had, but only for some Indian technicians and Indian filmmakers. What we missed mainly, the filmmakers coming actually to the film, and all the 14 filmmakers expressing what they felt about the audience. And when they see the film with the audience, what is the reaction? Some of the filmmakers were there, they had gone to Films that are gone to Corleberry, some other festivals. What is your experience in India? That we totally miss. So to me, nothing like physically happening festival. We hope that there is no another pandemic in future. I'm a medical man. Well, I'll tell you. And there's nothing like watching the film, for the filmmakers watching the film. And we miss so many, we retros. Like for example, you can't have a Hitchcock retro online. What's the use? But when you have a Hitchcock, show him 10 films and discuss about theaters, discuss about the technique of Hitchcock, exactly. So I think like can happening here, it's a live experience, very thrilling, throbbing. We all missed it in pandemic. So I only hope that next year we'll full length like we have here. I don't know whether can people can say it is 100% response because still some hangover is there. Maybe around 80%, 90%, whatever. But I think now in 23 we are in Jan. So I hope that everything will be all right. But last 2 years we miss cinema in real sense. Thank you.
So my last question for each one of you is, going forward, your festival is going to be in November, December. Going forward, are you going exactly back to physical events, or will you also might consider virtual screenings also?
Thank you, Asim. Hi, sorry. Of course, we will go back to totally physical. And as I said before, we really hope to have guests coming over from India or from any part of the world physically. But as someone was saying on the panel, the online, we will not get rid of the online so easily. So it can be, I mean, it can be useful, it can be helpful, it can be something different. But of course, as we all said, we prefer the physical. But I mean, we have printed our little postcard here, and on it we have written the physical cinema and online. So we will, of course, keep on having also a part of the festival online. Not the entire festival, because we feel that we want to we want to award in some way the audience that takes their feet or a plane or a car or a train to come and sit physically in the cinema. And so, of course, and the experience of sharing all together a film is very different. This we have all said it. But to answer your question, yes, there will still be some online, of course. Also to give the possibility to those who maybe stay far away, who cannot or don't want to travel to Florence to watch something, which is something new. I mean, it's new for the past 2 years, so that we can keep it going. Thank you.
You know, one of the challenges I had the first 2 years we did the physical, the virtual festival, because there was no other option. So films were coming. This year, it was late for us to sort of change our decision, but since things had started opening up, honestly speaking, a lot of the filmmakers didn't want to come, didn't show their films to us because we were mostly virtual. So that will always be a challenge when you are doing when the possibility of actually doing a physical festival. Then will the filmmakers give you films to also show them virtually? I mean, it's something that one has to negotiate and work through. We haven't given much thought to it, but I know there are filmmakers who really only want to show it in theaters.
Yeah, so I think we didn't answer the question of the panel. The question of the panel was, how is it post-pandemic, or something like that was the question, I think. Huh?
We're not post-pandemic. I've taken my mask off. It's still on.
You're correct, but I will try to give a little answer how it's also for the normal screenings in Germany. Yeah, so at the cinemas. So what we observe is that the big brands work. Yeah, so let's say the James Bond, the Doom 4, the I don't know, 3 Idiots 5. That still works very well. Yeah. But the smaller films, they do very hard at the cinemas. So what does that mean for a festival, for even smaller festivals like us, because we are not Berlinale, we are not Cannes. But what we can do, we can add some, how can I say, so we can push the brand of a film. So we can brand it with an award, we can brand it with that it was selected for the festival. So that adds value to the film to help a film become a brand and to help it in its journey internationally wise. And so if we want to use digital in that, so business speaking, it's all about scalability. So scalability means always, so if we do something virtual, you not reach, for example, we are based in Berlin, we not only reach the Berlin audience or the, let's say, Leipzig or Magdeburg, which is near to Berlin, but you can reach, I don't know, whole of Germany, you can reach German-speaking areas around and so on and so forth. So, and that's what we try with going digital. So our next edition will be both, like you said also, your edition will be virtual and real. So as we said before, you can't have discussions and the festival feeling, the festival atmosphere online. That's very difficult. But what you can have is you can at least market the festival. You can, people who maybe consider, would I like to go to Berlin to next year's edition of the festival next year? So you can sneak in online. You can see how is it. So this year we also will try to, some of the cultural program we will transfer. For example, last year we did a live of the concert of Medley, and that was seen, I think, by I think 80,000 people. So we would never have reached that with our small festival in Berlin itself. Other things we can do is, for example, the films can travel to a distributor, for example, that we observed with Mukti Bhavan, Hotel Salvation. That was an opening film. Then it got distribution in Germany, so more people could see it. So that's what we can do as festivals, and that is something what we can also think of digitally. So where are the chances, because in every crisis is also a chance. What are the chances to help filmmakers that the films are more seen, that they get a bigger audience, that the discussion about the film, and that is still something where we can use online. We just have to find the right format. The festival itself is just a platform for it, and then we have to find the right formats for pushing the films individually.
I just think we're all in agreement with each other. And in a way, it goes back to television versus going into the cinema. You know, the reach of television in homes and that kind of reach, you can't duplicate it by live events. And so I think that the combination of the pandemic with these platforms existing for streaming, as you said, secure platforms, where it's not like putting the film on YouTube and inviting people to watch it, is for certain audience members truly life-changing. And for those of us who thrive on the in-person events, they'll be there for us. I think we now realize that there's a lot of people out there that, whether it's geography, whether it's mobility issues, transportation issues, whatever the problems are, that kept them from coming to the cinema even pre-pandemic. And then when you add on now the extra anxiety that some people have and a fear of sitting in like us, we're sitting here. Yes, exactly. I truly sitting here and I'm happy to see some people in masks, because I actually think in a space like this we should be masked. But you wouldn't be able to hear me. So I think just being realistic, and not just realistic, there is the positive. I mean, this number of 80,000, that's huge, right? That the filmmaker reached 80,000 people with their work, it's huge. So we have to find the ways to do it creatively. You said, you know, think outside the box. It's not just taking a film and plunking it online, because that's why Netflix exists. We're doing it differently. We're curating and we're bringing in a discussion, and right, we're not trying to, you know, and with having emphasized that my festival is not an Indian film festival abroad, but a lot of the films, as it happens, are made by people of Indian origin. And it's just kind of funny how that turns out. There's just so much talent and so many titles, and some of them fit our festival just so beautifully. But we cover the, you know, as I said, a really wide range. Look out for us, Ageless International Film Festival. Do we want to see a little clip now? A little clip? Should I move away? Am I sitting right in front?
I'll just move back.
I want to address something. So I feel like a lot of filmmakers, writers, like creators in general, when people ask what is the hardest, the hardest film to make or the hardest film somebody's made, and they say the first one, you know, it's starting out. And if you had that footage and you didn't have a friend urging you on, I don't know if you're the kind of person that would